ever thought about how on Mondays you're still somehow so tired, you're exhausted, you had a lack of rest, and your weekend absolutely flew by? All we really want is an extra day. Usually on weekends, we will take this time to either catch up on work, catch up on school, do important things in your own personal life, or even sometimes you will just end up doing work at home all day. And today I'm going to compare for you guys a 4-day work week to a 5-day work week, which is what we usually have here in America. And even if you're not necessarily working right now and can feel so tired from those 5 days of work, one day you will, and if you don't, maybe you will feel it from school or something personal going on. You will feel so exhausted. And so basically, that is what we just do in our lives. We work, and today I researched using Walden University, American Psychological Association, and as well as the World Economic Forum to compare to you guys how productivity and employee well-being and business success really matters, and it can still be very well done in a 4-day work week. Let's start by looking at the productivity in the workplace. So many will automatically assume that a 4-day work week will decrease productivity because after a 3-day weekend, you think you will come back more lazy or not as motivated to come and do work. But it is completely the opposite. And according to Walden University, they did a large-scale trial of a 4-day work week, and what they found was that productivity was essentially maintained or even increased. And so in reality, a 4-day work week doesn't necessarily determine how much is going to be done. And also, it just came down to focusing on what mattered because so many businesses or companies will have required meetings or require extra time that doesn't necessarily make such a huge impact on their business. And a great example of this is Microsoft Japan. The World Economic Forum found that they had about a 40% increase of productivity. This is a very important fact and factor that could really determine so many companies' success. A 40% increase in productivity really does make such a huge difference to companies this big because you narrow down what doesn't really matter, you do more, and it helps so many, not just the business, but also the employee well-being. And speaking of employee well-being, let's look at how they are essentially also benefit from this. So what we found is that long hours will usually equal so much burnout, stress, and poor mental health. There's so much going on in people's life that all these 5 days of so many hours of work doesn't really benefit employees. Zara Abrams from the American Psychological Association found that a short work week makes a huge difference in employee mental health. And this is a very important thing nowadays because it is really what we do every single day here. We have to work or do school, and there's just so much to keep up with. And so Walden University reported that so many of their workers after the 4-day work week trial felt just so energetic, so motivated to come to work and really just put all their effort into their work because they had time to rest, they had time to do their own things. This is something so important that a lot of people don't talk about because they're just so accustomed to it. It's something just so normalized in the US. And now what really matters is the employee well-being because it really is a foundation of so many businesses and companies. And speaking about businesses and companies, let's look at how this will also essentially help companies because so many people think that it wouldn't. You would think automatically that less days is equal to less production, less sale, less productivity, less efficiency, but that is so not true because you can really find, for example, the World Economic Forum found that actually a 4-day work week did benefit them as they had better employee recruitment and they were also able to maintain these employees. Usually, if you are paid well and it's just a good workplace, employees are more likely to stay within these jobs, stay loyal to these jobs, and overall businesses don't have to waste time or training to um, to get more employees into their businesses because so many businesses will not really focus on their employees as long as they're doing their job, but really what we really need to focus on is employees and helping them be able to keep that job so that overall it will benefit the company as well. Walden University said that strong businesses are able to maintain their employee satisfaction. It is something that can be done. As I previously mentioned, it's basically a balance of um, improving the schedule and making sure that you remove anything that isn't necessary. In big companies or even small businesses, it really comes down to how you narrow down what you're going to complete in that day, and overall, it would increase your productivity, employee well-being, and the success of your business. As I mentioned, you don't have to waste more time or money into those worries like people who resign or people who just cannot work anymore. So although this would be something very ideal for so many people, it's important to note that there are workplaces such as hospital settings and just important emergency workplaces like that that are just not able to do this. And of course, it's unfortunate, but it is something good that they do for society. But there is other business workplaces that are able to do this, such as offices or even in the education system. Often they will even say that they're so overworked, underpaid, and basically a 4-day work week would really just lower down all of these risk of resignation or even of complaints. So to conclude, today I went over and compared for you guys all of the research that I found of productivity, employee well-being, and business success. And to narrow it down, we really found that, as many people say, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. We really should implement this 4-day work week and narrow down the schedule to what really matters in order to help employees, help businesses, and ensure that everything works out well. And that is it. Thank you.